Hey everybody, welcome back to Cosmic Life. My name is Stacy, and today I'm going to talk about the lunar eclipse in Libra happening on March 25th. It's going to be happening at 5 degrees of Libra, so you may want to look at your chart and see where that's hitting in your chart. I'm going to unpack the eclipses separately because there's a lot of energy to both of them, and I don't want to overwhelm you with making one long video about the entire eclipse season. So we're going to unpack the Libra eclipse, which is happening first. And I want to first talk about the basics of eclipses. With eclipse energy, they are pretty impactful. They are, new moons and full moons on steroids, right? And the full moon eclipses are usually a culmination of what the prior new moon eclipse started. And so we want to take a look at, okay, where did Libra have its solar eclipse? And that happened October 14th, and it was at 22 degrees of Libra. And so you may want to take a look or think back to what was happening around October 14th, whether it be, 2 weeks prior or a few weeks prior, or even a couple weeks after, because that could give you a clue as to what may be peaking right now. And when we look at the eclipse axis, we're looking at Libra and Aries, okay? And Libra is ruled by Venus, Aries is ruled by Mars. So we're looking at two eclipses that are basically having to do with the masculine and feminine energies, right? And so right now we have a full moon lunar eclipse happening in Venus's home of Libra, and that is going to bring us a culmination or some kind of peak into what may have started in October. If you didn't see anything significant happen during that time, you may see something so significant happen this time around, because the October solar eclipse was at 22 degrees Libra, and now we're at 5 degrees Libra. So you may not have seen that eclipse happen to connect with anything in your chart during the solar eclipse, and maybe now that it's at 5 degrees, you may see a connection in your natal chart to whether you have 5 degrees Libra or another air sign or fire sign. Those would be positive connections. The challenging connections will be with Cancer and Capricorn. If you have anything within the 5 degree range of those two signs, this may be more of a challenging eclipse for you. However, I think there is more positive than negative with the Libra full moon eclipse. And I say that because, for one, the eclipse is ruled by Venus. So typically, Venus brings harmony, right? And this very much has to do with love and money. Our creative projects, it could be whether you're, an artist or a musician, or even if you're doing home renovations, that's all Venusian energy. And I feel the lunar eclipse is going to put a very strong focal point on that energy, whether it has to do with something that started 6 months ago or not. Right now, we're being called to balance the scales. So if you started a relationship in October, during the build-up to this lunar eclipse, you could be looking at if the relationship is in line with what you need from a partnership. If the scales are balanced between you and your partner, this is very much, you know, a call to question if the relationship is really in tune with your needs. And this could be an opportunity to make changes where they need to be made. Because this lunar eclipse is going to trine Pluto in Aquarius. Now, when I mentioned before about the eclipses being ruled by Venus and Mars, okay, let's take a step back to January. In January, we saw Venus and Mars as they ingressed into Aquarius. They both had to pass by the gatekeeper of Aquarius right now, which is Pluto, before they can make their entrance into Aquarius. And so Mars and Venus underwent a transformation as they made their entry into Aquarius. Pluto very much changed the energy of both of them, and called into question what purpose they were going to have during their time in Aquarius, and what they were going to be, you know, what they were going to be forging ahead with, you know, and what kind of independent energy both of them were going to have as a masculine and feminine sign. You know, Aquarians can be very independent. You know, they don't care about conforming to a relationship or society or, you know, the rules. If it doesn't serve them, they have no problem separating from it, right? And I'm bringing up, you know, Venus and Mars conjuncting Pluto for a reason, because both of them had to go through that rebirth process when they went into Aquarius. And now we see eclipses happening by their, you know, that are going to be ruled by Venus and Mars, right? So we're taking a look at that masculine and feminine energy again. And I think if we look back to, you know, what was transpiring when Venus and Mars entered Aquarius, we may have seen the start of, you know, taking a different, unique approach to the masculine and feminine energies, or our relationships, you know, overall, whether it be, you know, friendships or love relationships or work relationships, whatever it may be for you. And now it's like, you know, a checkpoint. Like, okay, now that you took that different approach, or now that you know, had that new energy begin, is it keeping you in tune with what you need, right? Because we're looking at Libra wanting to keep the scales balanced and wanting to make sure that things are fair. And so if you're in a position in any, you know, area of your life where, you know, you're putting too much energy towards something and it's not giving back to you, this may be a time where you have to say, you know what, I'm gonna pull my energy back. I can't do this anymore. I'm exhausting myself. This is not serving me. And it's not giving me, you know, my fair share of the deal, right? And this also could be an opportunity where, you know, if you weren't in any relationships, you know, or if you were separated from people for one reason or another, it could be because of busy holiday schedule and, you know, the winter blues. This could be a time where you now have to balance that out and say, you know what, I need more time with my friends. I need more time with my family. You know, wherever you see that things have gotten kind of sidetracked, this could be a time where you say, okay, now I need to kind of regroup and center. For those that are single, if you've been single since October, this could be the end of your singledom, if that's even a word. I could have just created a new word, I don't know. But, you know, if you were putting other things in, you know, in your forefront as more of a priority than, you know, being in a partnership or, you know, being out there dating, you know, now could be a time where you say, you know what, now that I've gotten through the things that I've been focusing on for the past 6 months, I think I have, you know, the energy and the time to get out there in the dating world, you know, and see what's out there for me. Or maybe you already have people around you that are interested that you kind of have been blowing off, and now you're like, you know what, I'm open to this. I'm open to seeing where this goes. The eclipse making a trine to Pluto is going to enable a rebirth. And that's why I brought up, you know, where Venus and Mars have been when they started their journey in Aquarius, because they met with Pluto, and Pluto was the gatekeeper to both of their rebirth, right? And so now we see, you know, Pluto being in the mix again, and with a trine aspect, that brings opportunity. And a lot of astrologers will say that, you know, trines can also enable laziness. Anything with astrology, the universe has its way of lining things up to make things happen. But it's up to you to take action, right? If you're not doing anything to participate, you know, there's no better way of saying it, but if you're not participating, then nothing's going to happen. And, you know, so you could have all the positive energy in the world and, you know, be sitting home doing nothing about it. Just letting an opportunity slip through your fingers. And I'm saying that because I think a lot of people assume that things will just happen because the astrology, you know, is lining things up in the sky to make things happen. And it is true that the energy from the planets can help make things happen. But it's up to you to be a participant in the world and in your own reality, to have that door open, right? And when we're taking a look at a full moon lunar eclipse making a trine to Pluto, whatever may be culminating right now, whatever this eclipse may bring for you, it is an opportunity for a major change with a trine to Pluto, because Pluto loves death and rebirth. Pluto wants to, you know, rejuvenate and dig deep. And, you know, if you think about spring cleanup outside, right? You know, you have a garden, a yard, you know, you have to go out there, you have to clean up all the weeds, you know, now that all the snow is melted, you know, if you live in the north like me, now that all the snow is melted, you have to clean up all the branches that fell, or, you know, get rid of all the weeds or the leaves, or, you know, you have to clean all that up. So this way, when the sun is shining and things start blooming, you can actually see it bloom, right? You could see things grow. And Pluto's like that, you know, Pluto wants you to dig deep, clean things up, you know, and allow a rebirth, right? That's what spring is about. It's about rebirth. And it's really amazing that when we have an eclipse that's happening basically as spring begins, connecting to the planet of rebirth, it's very symbolic of that potential for rebirth in your life. So take a look at where Aquarius is in your chart, and that'll show you, what area of life Pluto is bringing a rebirth to. And take a look at where Libra is. Now, if you have anything within 3 degrees of either one, so say 2 degrees Libra to 8 degrees Libra, or Pluto is at 1 degree Aquarius right now. So anything at 4 degrees Aquarius or 28 degrees Capricorn, you'll see, more impact to those natal planets. And whatever they may be, is how it'll play out. So if you have, say your natal Venus and Mars involved in these points where the eclipse is happening, you know darn well that there's going to be relationship focus and, focus on love and money and your creative endeavors, whatever they may be. And what you're passionate towards. So use the opportunity. Don't let it slip through your fingers, because this could be a very rewarding eclipse if you understand that there's a lot to gain from it. And I don't want to go into the Aries eclipse so much, but, because I do want to make a completely separate video about that. But there is a lot of great potential with the astrology that's coming in the springtime. And I think if you are aware of what's coming, and you know how it affects your chart and what areas of life are going to be coming into focus, you can use that energy for your benefit, and you can prepare for what's coming ahead. We've had a lot of energy. We're in the middle of Pisces season. We've had a lot of energy in Pisces, and it will continue for some time. But we've seen majority of the energy playing between Aquarius, Pisces, Aries, and Taurus. So that whole quadrant of your chart has been lit up, and there's been a lot of dynamic energy happening. And the eclipse season in itself is very dynamic because of for one, them being in a masculine and feminine ruled sign, and this is very much about self and other. For the Libra eclipse, it's more of a focus on other, whether it's partnerships or others in our groups, in our work relationships, in our family life. We're very much, focused on the others, and where we've put our energy towards, that may need rebalance. If you weren't putting enough energy towards something, and you may see that this is a time where you're, it's kind of being slapped in your face, like, hey, now's the time to put your energy towards this. You could very much be called into action when an eclipse happens, because it's a very potent energy, and it can be, very sudden and, shocking in its own way. The eclipses are like that. They shake us up when we need to be shook up, and it could be because you've been stuck in, something that's not serving you, or, you're in energy that is not in line with where you need to be, and something occurs during the eclipse where you're being basically derailed, you know, you're being forced into a new direction. And that new direction is where you're supposed to go, you know, and if that eclipse didn't happen, you wouldn't have had the push that you needed to go in that other direction, right? This is a time for, you know, things that, when we're looking at a lunar eclipse, more often it could be the beginning of the end of something, or it could be the sudden end of something. And so it all depends on, as I keep saying, where this ends up in your chart, where Libra is in your chart is going to tell you, you know, what focus in your life this will shed light on. You could have a, you know, a sudden event that, you know, forces you to change that area of your life so you can have the new beginning that comes along with the solar eclipse. And I very much feel that with this eclipse season, that we have a lot of energy in the sky that is telling us we need to release and rethink our plans in order to have the new beginning that lies ahead. And that kind of brings me into what happens right after the Libra full moon eclipse, and that is Mercury retrograde. Mercury retrograde begins on April 1st. The shadow period begins before the eclipse, and that's why I'm going to bring it up now. The shadow period is starting on March 18th, when Mercury hits 12 degrees of Aries, and it's going to travel to 27 degrees Aries, and that is when it's going to start its retrograde. And Mercury is going to backtrack over the North Node, over Chiron, and the eclipse point for the Aries Solar Eclipse. So there's going to be a major focus on rethinking our plans and our strategy, maybe, you know, because Mars is about strategy. And taking a second look at details before we forge ahead to the new beginnings that the solar eclipse can bring in April. I find it, you know, I think it's amazing that Mercury retrograde is sandwiched in between the full moon lunar eclipse and the new moon solar eclipse. I mean, directly in between both of them. So it's like, as you're closing out something, or as something's culmination or coming to a rebalance, you're now taking another look at where you want to begin something, right? Or how you want to begin this new chapter that can come along with the solar eclipse. And I think we need to pay close attention to what's going to come to you. It may not come clearly to you starting March 18th, but you may see glimpses of things that need to be looked over, things that need to be reconsidered once the Mercury shadow period begins. It's very common that that shadow period will show you little hints of things that you're going to need to address during the Mercury retrograde period. So also look at the 12 to 27 degrees of Aries in your chart and see if you have any natal planets within those degree points, because if Mercury is retrograding over one of those natal planets, you will have a very significant impact where, you know, Mercury is going to go back and forth and back. And there's going to be a lot of focus on that planet's energy. I also want to preface that if you don't see hints of what may come as of April 1st, it could be that when Mercury starts its retrograde, you may suddenly have someone come into your awareness or come back to your life that you haven't seen in a while. Because Mercury retrogrades, that does happen a lot. And when we're talking about a Mercury retrograde in Aries, Aries is all about ourself and our identity. And so I can't help but feel like this very well could be a person, right? That suddenly comes back. You know, maybe you start thinking about them over the next 2 weeks, and, you know, I could be manifesting that for you just by saying this right now. But anyway, I digress. You could suddenly have someone, you know, that you bump into that you haven't seen in a while, that suddenly, you know, comes back into your life, where you may start to reconnect over that period. And, you know, it could be in a friendly way. It could be, you know, maybe an old partner, or an old business associate that, you know, helps bring a new opportunity, you know, in your work life. If it's an old partner that you suddenly run into or reconnect with, you know, it could be that there's things that need to be readdressed, whether it's for closure or for, you know, reconnecting and rekindling, right? Any words is what you need to think of when it comes to any planet retrograde, right? Review, rethink, revise, replan, you know, it's all up for grabs. And, you know, so if you're reconnecting with someone, I would take a very slow, steady approach to that, because, you know, it may be that you're reconnecting for some closure, or you could be reconnecting and have a new beginning with that person, because this is happening right between, you know, both eclipses. And this is happening, Mercury retrograde is happening in Aries, and the solar eclipse is happening in Aries. So it could be that if a person comes back and, you know, however they're connected to you, that person could bring a new beginning in your life, in some way, shape, or form. So again, I don't want to dive too deep into the Aries solar eclipse. I want to make a separate video on that, because there's a lot to unpack on that as well. But I think it's important to mention the Mercury retrograde factor, because we will potentially start seeing the shadow period start affecting us before that eclipse. And so keep your eyes out. Again, you may see hints of things, or bits and pieces of information, you know, start coming into you, or maybe you know, if it's a person that suddenly starts reconnecting here and there, you may see that. And if you don't, that's okay. You'll at least be aware of the fact that the energy is not the energy to rush into. When we're talking about a Mercury retrograde in between two eclipses, you definitely want to take your time with it. Yes, eclipses can suddenly make things happen, but there's a purpose as to why Mercury retrograde is happening in between them. It's telling us, take your time, don't rush into it, look at all the details, and, you know, really stay true to yourself, and, you know, take a slow and steady approach. And with that, I think that's all I want to say about the Libra full moon lunar eclipse on May, I keep wanting to say May, on March 25th. It is going to be a positive one. We're talking about a sign ruled by Venus. So I do see this being harmonious. I see it being beneficial for all of us. So I want to send all positive, loving vibes out there to everybody for the eclipse season, and especially the Libra eclipse. We do have a lot of great potential for change coming in the springtime, and that's always a wonderful thing to look forward to. We have a lot of stuff coming ahead for us, and it's going to be very supportive. So stay tuned. I will be making videos on all the transits, especially as we get closer and closer to them. I'll probably make the Aries Solar Eclipse video in a week or two. I am Irish, so I do plan on celebrating St. Patty's Day next weekend, so I'm not sure if I'll be able to get that done for next weekend. So with that, I hope you have a great eclipse season, and stay tuned for more videos. If you like this content and everything that I've shared with you, please feel free to comment, share your thoughts, subscribe to my channel, share the videos with others, and stay tuned for more. Have a great week.